At 2:13 a.m., my inbox pinged with a message that wasn't supposed to exist. No subject line, just a shaky attachment and a sender address thrown together like an alibi. I clicked, held my breath, and watched the familiar crest flicker into view. The school district's seal embossed over a document called draft_budget final_final.pdf. Except it wasn't. Entire pages were whiteouts, surgical blanks stitched with the faint ghosts of redacted lines. Somewhere in that silence, the truth was hiding in plain sight. I didn't know it then, but opening that file would pry open a door the board had bolted shut. Hard. If you ask anyone in Briar Hollow why the band program disappeared, they'll shrug and say the money ran out. That's the answer the board mailed in a glossy newsletter. Smiling students, soft focus, a caption about priorities. I'm a parent, a bookkeeper, and the kind of neighbor who does math in the margins. I sat in the last row of the April meeting, my pen punching through paper. The superintendent spoke in lullabies. The CFO clicked through slides, heavy on clip art, light on numbers. When the budget overview appeared, 4 boxes glowed: operations, salaries, facilities, and other. Other was twice operations. Miss Vale, the chair, smiled the way a lid smiles on a boiling pot. I asked for line item detail for other. Those funds are restricted and not itemized at the meeting level, she said. We'll post a summary. A week later, the summary was 4 pages, 3 of them photos. The 4th listed totals rounded to the nearest 100,000. I held it under the kitchen light and felt that small internal click, the one that says, "Try the door." I poured coffee, opened the portal, and wrote the request like a recipe, exact, measured. All line item expenditures and encumbrances for Fund 405, Other, from July 1 to present, including vendor names, amounts, memos, and originating accounts. I hesitated over my phone number, clicked Submit, and watched a confirmation number and statutory deadline appear. 15 business days. Long enough to forget bravery, short enough to make cowards sweat. That night, my son, Eli, asked why Ms. Granger took her posters down. He liked how she whispered Latin plant names like spells. I told him sometimes grown-ups misplace priorities. I didn't say I could feel the misplacement like a splinter under my nail. Days passed. A friendly clerk sent polite delays. We are processing a high volume of requests. I called anyway. The phone tree played a warm piano loop, the soundtrack to Waiting Forever. When I finally reached the live voice, I asked whether transactions lived in Munis or a homebrew system. Silence, then a hang-up so neat it sounded like a dotted line. The first whisper arrived next. A counselor forwarded a screenshot of a closed-door agenda item, Strategic Reallocation 405. A note beneath it, less public chatter, more alignment. I opened a spreadsheet, a timeline, a list of names. I am not an investigator, I told myself. I'm good at patterns. And the pattern said someone had moved money into a shadow with our district's crest stamped on the darkness. On day 13, the district emailed, "Your request requires additional time." The deadline stretched like gum. I pushed back my chair, stood in the quiet kitchen, and felt the house listening. That night, I left the lamp on. The envelope was the color of stale tea and heavy with the kind of weight paper shouldn't have. It waited on my doormat like a dare. No return address, my name printed in block letters that pretended not to be nervous. Inside, a single folded page, a purchase order cleaved from a ledger, the numbers black and sure of themselves. Vendor, Alder and North Strategies. Amount, $84,000. Memo, Community Engagement Pilot, 405. The date matched the week Eli's art club vanished. At the bottom, A pen had hesitated, then drawn a tiny star beside a signature I recognized. Vale. In ink. I carried it to the table and flattened the creases with my palm, heart beating a metronome I couldn't slow. I knew that signature, the slight flourish on the V like a hook. The star felt petty and human, like whoever signed wanted to remember the exact moment they'd pushed the pen through a number too big to explain. Google knew Alder and North. Their site glowed with stock photos of diverse meetings and phrases about alignment, strategic listening, and shaping narratives. The address was a P.O. box. I clicked through campaign filings for the board election. The same box number winked from Miss Vale's committee reports, twice, like a skunk stripe. I dialed the clerk's number. The piano loop was busier today. "Hi, it's Mallory Jensen, request 24105, I said when a voice finally arrived. "I'm amending. Please add contracts, RFPs, bid tabulations, and sole source justifications for all 405 funded vendors, including Alder and North Strategies." A pause that smelled like paper. "You can submit that in writing." I just did, and I sent the email while we were still on the phone. I told myself I was merely gathering, not accusing. Then I remembered Eli's art club, the vacuum in his voice when he described the silent hallway where the kiln used to purr. Gathering felt like grief with a to-do list. That afternoon, a new message slid under my door. This time, a photo. A whiteboard from a closed session, numbers in dry erase blue. 405 arrow engagement arrow pilot. A hand in the frame held the marker like a cigarette. The caption read, "They're braiding funds." I wrote another request. All communications between board members, the superintendent, and Alder and North, including text messages on personal devices that discuss district business. I added the statutory citation, a talisman against their vagueness. At pickup, Miss Granger stood outside with a cardboard box and a smile too bright. "Budget season," she said, as if it were weather. Eli climbed into the car and asked if pilots fly meetings. That night, I drafted a complaint to the state records ombudsman, copying the district and the newspaper. 2 minutes later, my phone vibrated. Unknown number. Check your back fence. I stepped into the yard. The fence held a tear in the lattice and taped inside it a flash drive in a snack bag. I didn't plug it in. I photographed it, called Jonah at the ledger, and waited while the kitchen clock counted my breaths. "Chain of custody," he said. "We do this carefully. I'll bring a clean laptop." When we hung up, the portal refreshed itself. My request had flipped to extended security review. The night pressed against the window like it wanted in. Across the street, a car idled and then slid away without headlights.
Secrets don't whisper. They hum, low and constant, like a refrigerator in the next room. You stop hearing them until the night is quiet enough, and then the sound crawls under your skin. The flash drive sat on my table like a trapped heartbeat. Jonah called it evidence. I called it a door. Thin, dangerous, and begging to be pushed. In another version of my life, I would have sealed it in a drawer and called an adult. In this one, I made coffee, brushed my hair with my fingers, and waited for the knock that would make the humming louder. Jonah knocked 3 times, brisk and careful. He carried a messenger bag and the kind of calm that only comes from rehearsing your fear. "We'll do this clean," he said, setting a spiral notebook on the table. He photographed the snack bag, the tear in my fence lattice, the time on the stove clock. He wore nitrile gloves to lift the drive, labeled it with a Sharpie, J001, and sealed it in a fresh bag. Chain of custody. The phrase settled like a seatbelt. He pulled a stubby laptop from a gray sleeve. "No Wi-Fi, no Bluetooth," he said, air-gapped. He booted from a clean USB he'd prepared, navigated to a forensics tool I didn't recognize, and made a read-only image. Eli's door down the hall was closed. The hall lamp pooled warm light like a moat. When the file tree bloomed, something in me tensed. The top folder was named Marigold. Inside, PDFs, spreadsheets, screenshots, and a subfolder labeled Signal Backups. Jonah's eyebrows flicked. He opened the PDF, SOW_ANN_0423.pdf, Statement of Work. The words were tidy, the fees not. Deliverables, narrative strategy for strategic reallocation, parent ambassador program, stipends up to $250 each, paid as honoraria, Fund 405, influencer mapping, rapid response team. My name was in a slide titled Stakeholder Heat Map. It looked like someone had taken a highlighter to my life. PTA emails, my LinkedIn, an old photograph from a school garden day where Miss Granger was showing Eli how to transplant basil, a red dot beside my name, potential disruptor, monitor. My stomach went cold as if I'd swallowed a key. Look at this, Jonah said, opening 405.grade.xlsx. Tabs, transfers, JE narratives, custodial funds, ESSER carryover. In the transfers tab, rows of journal entries ladder downward. Titles, move ESSER 2 set aside to 405. Engagement, shift after school grant to 405. Pilot, recode art supplies as materials. Engagement. The memos were neat. Reclassify for alignment. The dates matched the week the kiln disappeared. He clicked an email export, Vale Greer 405.msg. Track changes bled across the screen. Vale, we cannot absorb this in the open. Keep sessions off calendar. Use invite-only circles. Title funds can be braided. The state will applaud innovation. Greer, noted. Will label under 405. Pilot, delete after reading. Jonah exhaled through his nose, slow. This is big. He typed notes, date-stamped his thoughts like evidence. But anonymous leaks are a bridge. We need to land on both sides, public records or a source we can name. I filed. They're stalling, I said. My voice sounded like it had been sanded. He nodded. Then we light a fire. My phone pinged. An email from the district council. Notice of security review. Reminder that unauthorized possession of confidential data may constitute a violation. A second email landed. Your request 24105 is unduly burdensome. Please narrow. I laughed, a small, ugly noise. Narrow to what? Their nerve? Jonah's mouth twitched. We'll answer. Specific, surgical. Ask for the SOW for Alder and North, journal entries to 405 from ESSER and after school, and the parent ambassador list. Then he paused, reading my face. And you stay steady. Don't plug that drive into anything you own. Don't share files. Let me carry this. On the screen, a text thread surfaced from the Signal Backups folder. A name saved as chair. Make sure Granger's reassigned before May. HR will call it coverage optimization. Keep her sweet. No public testimony. Another bubble. Braid the after-school hours into engagement pilot. Codes must match. Granger. The basil. The cardboard box. I felt something old and feral in me stand up. They are writing the theft in marker. They are proud of it. Jonah closed the laptop and sealed the image drive in his bag. Pride makes good copy. It also makes mistakes. He tapped his notebook. I'll verify with 2 sources, on background, and put in formal requests of my own. You file a response to council. Keep everything. Screenshots, even the piano music on the phone tree. We cleaned the table. The house grew that late-night hollow. Eli turned over in his sleep, murmuring something about roots. I checked the portal one more time. A new meeting had appeared at 11:58 p.m. Special board meeting. Action item. Strategic reallocation. 405. 2 days away. Public comment limited to 1 minute. I closed the laptop. Outside, the humming didn't stop. It changed pitch, like the moment before a storm when the air teaches you its true weight.
At 6:58 p.m., the boardroom smelled like fresh toner, a nervous perfume. and every seat had a little tent card that said, "Please be constructive," as if tone could launder math. A red LED timer blinked above the dais. 1 minute, boxed in blood. Vale held the gavel like a wand. Behind her, a poster read "Engagement Pilot," with a stock photo of children stacking blocks that looked suspiciously like barriers. I had a folder, 3 pens, and the kind of calm you borrow from anger. Somewhere, someone had decided to braid our schools into a story. I'd brought scissors. Behind me, a cluster of matching T-shirts said "Parent Ambassadors" in a cheerful font. A woman with a clipboard handed me a pre-printed statement about listening, trust, and aligning for tomorrow. I folded it once, then again, until the words hid in my palm. Jonah slid into the back row, legal pad ready, eyes scanning like a lighthouse. He lifted 2 fingers, steady. I felt the weight of J001 in his bag, even from across the room, a gravity everyone else pretended not to feel. Ms. Vale rapped the gavel and smiled. "We're excited to present the strategic reallocation," she said, pronouncing the capital letters with care. The CFO advanced a slide that was more gradient than numbers. Operations, salaries, facilities, other. Other still swallowed the screen. Other allows flexibility, the CFO said. "We're prioritizing engagement. Families want to be heard." He clicked to a photo of parents at a round table, stock smiles, stock mugs. The timer blinked. Vale opened public comment. 1 minute. Please be constructive. I was 4th. I had divided my point into 3 one-minute needles, 2 backup needles stitched in my sleeve. When my name was called, I set my folder on the lectern. May Jensen, parent and bookkeeper. Vendor, Alder & North Strategies. Amount, $84,000. Memo, Community Engagement Pilot, 405. Signed by the chair. My voice didn't shake. Reclassifications from ESSER and after school appear in transfers labeled alignment. Can you confirm? The chair recognizes that individual transactions are not discussed in public, yet the law recognizes the public's right to records, including texts about district business on personal phones. I nodded at counsel. I've requested the SOW, the journal entries, and the parent ambassador list. The state ombudsman is copied. The timer buzzed like a trapped fly. I stepped back. An ambassador spoke next, reading the card word for word. "We, the parents of Briar Hollow, urge investment in engagement. Listening builds trust." Her eyes skimmed me like a skipped stone. Another ambassador followed. Same message, new earrings. Then Ms. Granger stood. Her cardboard box sat at her feet, as if she was always ready to leave. "I teach science," she said. "I know a closed system when I see one. You can't create energy by relabeling matter. You can't pay for engagement by erasing the conditions that make people want to speak." The room exhaled. Vale stared at the clock. During a lull, I raised the purchase order with Vale's starred signature. A camera clicked. The document camera caught it, briefly, like a confession in a spotlight. "That image is not part of the presentation," counsel snapped, and someone killed the screen. In the sudden dim, a phone chimed. Vale glanced down. My name glowed red on her lens briefly. The message landed at 9:03 p.m. with the nakedness of a siren. Clarification on rumors, from Superintendent Greer to the entire district. I could still see the red blink of the boardroom timer when I opened it. "Misinformation has circulated," it began, and there was my name, not typed, but suggested, tucked into phrases like disruptor and small but loud. Vale's phone had hummed as if the smear needed a drum roll. The email promised transparency, a town hall, a pilot, a future. No numbers. Numbers were where air got thin. I read it twice, closed my eyes, and counted to 60. 1 minute. The only fair measure they offered anyone. They voted 4-3. Reallocation passed. The gavel sounded like a door sealed with wet paint. In the hallway, Vale intercepted me with a smile, designed to protect fragile things. Hers, not mine. "May," she said, voice low, "if you have concerns, there are channels." She meant tunnels. We're all on the same side.
By 8:31 a.m., the courthouse air tastes like pennies and toner. The emergency hearing is an hour shaped like a cliff. Vale sits at counsel table with a blowout and a legal pad she won't use. Greer stares at the seal above the judge's bench like it might blink. Jonah sets J001 in front of him, but not on the record. Our lawyer taps her pen once and then never again, and my phone buzzes with a text from Tess. "I'm here, back row." Prior restraint hangs in the room like a thunderhead. If truth has legs, we test them. The district's attorney stands first, voice practiced. He calls the leak theft, the documents proprietary, the harm irreparable, confusion, injury, chaos. Our counsel rises and lifts 3 pages: the roster, the sole source, the purchase order. "These aren't secrets," she says. "They are public records the district produced or must produce. Records law compels disclosure. Gag orders belong to monarchies." Miss Granger sits in the second row, hands folded, not shaking. Tess texts from the back. "I kept copies when they tried to vanish them." Jonah, silent, writes and writes, notes becoming a bridge. The judge leans forward. "Tell me the harm publication brings that secrecy does not," he says. The district hems. Our counsel slides a yellow flagged line across. "Facilities transfer 1014. Roofing to engagement 405. The judge reads it twice. "Roofing to engagement," he repeats, like tasting a bruise. Jonah's pencil never stops. "Restraint denied," the judge rules. "You will preserve all devices for district business, including personal phones. You will produce a log of withheld items and meet deadlines you ignored." His gavel falls, not loud, but final. Like a metronome finding the beat today.